The ship hit the swamp at an angle that should have killed everyone inside. Danny Reeves woke up hanging upside down from his safety harness. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead. The emergency lights painted everything red. Somewhere in the wreckage, someone was screaming. He cut himself free and fell hard onto what used to be the ceiling. His shoulder burned with pain, but nothing felt broken. Small miracles. The Calvary trading vessel had been his ticket to the frontier colonies. 3 months of work as an engineer in exchange for passage. Now the ship lay scattered across an acidic swamp on a planet called Tessera 4. The air smelled like burning metal and rotten eggs. 6 others survived. A Vren warrior named Torkel, all muscle and scales and barely controlled rage. A Meldari female called Isith, her pale skin glowing faintly with psychic energy. 3 chorus drones who moved as one, their hive mind making them speak in perfect unison. And Danny, the only human. They gathered what supplies they could before the swamp began eating through the hull. Torkel pointed toward a mountain of black glass that rose from the mist 3 kilometers away. Temple, he said. Shelter. Nobody argued. The swamp creatures would come out at night. Everyone knew the stories about Tessera 4. Nothing survived in the open after dark. They walked for hours through knee-deep water that burned through their boots. The chorus drones carried the injured. Isith used her abilities to sense the path. Torkel led with his weapon drawn. Danny just tried to keep up. The temple was carved directly into the black glass mountain. Ancient steps led up to an entrance tall enough for giants. Strange symbols covered every surface, written in a language that died long before any of their species learned to walk upright. They climbed the steps as the sun began to set. The guardian appeared without warning. It rose from the stone itself, a towering figure of obsidian and pale starlight. 30 feet tall, shaped roughly like a person but wrong in ways that hurt to look at. Light pulsed in its chest like a heartbeat. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. Leave this place. Torkel raised his weapon. We need shelter. Stand azide. The guardian moved faster than anything that size should move. One moment, Torkel stood at the front of the group. The next moment, he flew backward through the air and crashed into the steps 20 feet below. The chorus drones surged forward as one, trying to reach the guardian's mind with their collective consciousness. They wanted to absorb it, to make it part of their hive. The guardian simply looked at them, and all 3 collapsed, their connection severed. Isith tried next. She reached out with her psychic abilities, gentle and careful, trying to read the guardian's intentions. A wall of force slammed into her and sent her tumbling down the stairs after Torkel. Danny stood alone at the top of the steps. The guardian looked down at him. Waiting, Danny raised his empty hands. I don't have any weapons. I'm not going to try to control you or read your mind. I'm just really tired, and there are things in that swamp that want to eat me. The guardian said nothing. I'm Danny, by the way. Danny Reeves. I'm human. From Earth. You probably haven't heard of it. Most people haven't. Still nothing. Danny looked at the guardian more carefully. The obsidian body was cracked in places, old wounds that had never fully healed. The starlight in its chest flickered like a candle in the wind. And in those ancient eyes, Danny saw something that surprised him. Exhaustion. Not anger. Not malice. Just bone-deep weariness that came from doing the same thing for far too long. How long have you been here? Danny asked. The guardian tilted its massive head. 12,000 years. Alone? Yes. Danny sat down on the top step. His legs ached. His shoulder throbbed. Behind him, the others were slowly getting back to their feet, but they kept their distance now. That sounds really lonely, Danny said. The guardian went very still. In 12,000 years, across hundreds of visitors from dozens of species, no one had ever said those words. They came with weapons. They came with demands. They came with tricks and schemes and desperate hunger for the power inside the temple. And no one ever came with sympathy. Why do you not attack? The guardian asked. Would it help? No. Then why would I? Danny shrugged. You're not trying to hurt us. You're just doing your job. I get it. I've had jobs I hated too. The starlight in the guardian's chest pulsed a little brighter. You are strange, the Guardian said. Your species is unknown to me. We're pretty new to the galactic scene, still figuring things out. Danny looked back at the swamp, where the mist was turning dark with approaching night. Look, I'm not going to demand anything or threaten you, but those swamp creatures are going to kill us if we stay out here. Is there any chance you could just let us camp nearby? Not inside the temple, just close enough that the scary things leave us alone. The Guardian considered this for a long moment. You may stay at the base of the steps, it finally said. Do not approach the entrance again. Thank you. Danny stood up and walked back down to join the others. Torkel grabbed his arm, scales rough against skin. What did you do? The Vren demanded. Danny looked back at the Guardian, still standing at the temple entrance, starlight flickering in its ancient chest. I think I just made a friend. 3 days passed on Tessara 4. The survivors made camp at the base of the temple steps. They built shelters from wreckage they dragged from the swamp. They rationed food and water. They argued about what to do next. Danny spent most of his time climbing the steps, not all the way to the top, just far enough to sit within sight of the Guardian. He would find a comfortable spot, settle down, and simply wait, sometimes for hours. The Guardian never spoke first. Neither did Danny. The others thought he was crazy. It will kill you. Torkel warned him on the third morning. The moment you become a threat, it will crush you like it crushed me. I'm not trying to be a threat. Then what are you trying to do? Danny thought about the question. My father used to rescue wild animals back on Earth. Dogs that had been hurt. Cats that had been abandoned. He never chased them or grabbed them. He would just sit near them and wait. Sometimes for days. Until they understood he wasn't going to hurt them. That creature is not a wounded animal, Torkel said. It is a weapon. A guard dog for something valuable inside that temple. Guard dogs get lonely too. Danny climbed the steps. The Guardian stood at the entrance as always, a statue of black glass and starlight. Danny sat down about 20 feet away and pulled out a small piece of dried fruit from his rations. He ate it slowly, watching the sunset paint the swamp in shades of orange and purple. You return, the Guardian said. I like the view. There are better views elsewhere on this planet. Sure, but then I wouldn't get to see you. The Guardian went quiet for a while. Danny finished his fruit and wiped his hands on his pants. Why do you keep coming back? The Guardian finally asked. The others fear me. They plan attacks behind my awareness. But you sit here eating food and watching the sky. Do you want me to leave? I want to understand. Danny leaned back on his hands and looked up at the massive figure. What's your name? The question seemed to catch the Guardian off guard. The starlight in its chest flickered. I am the Guardian of the Heartstone Temple. That's a title, not a name. Another long pause. I was called Kesith. Once. Long ago. Kesith. I like that. Danny smiled. Nice to meet you properly, Kesith. I am Denyi. You already told me your name. I know, but now we're being introduced. It's different. Kesith considered this. The concept of social ritual seemed foreign to the ancient being. The ones who created me gave me that name, Kesith said slowly. I have not spoken it aloud in 11,000 years. The last visitor who asked for my name tried to use it as a binding word, a spell to control me. Did it work? No. I killed him. Well, I don't know any spells. I'm just an engineer. I fix broken machines, and sometimes I break working ones by accident. You're not afraid of me. It wasn't a question. Danny thought about it anyway. I don't think so. Should I be? I have killed hundreds of beings who approached this temple. Thousands. I have lost count over the centuries. Did any of them just want to talk? Kesith's massive head tilted slightly. No. Then maybe that's why you killed them. Not because you wanted to, but because they gave you no other choice. Something shifted in the Guardian's posture. The defensive stance softened just a fraction. You speak as if you understand. I grew up on a frontier colony, Danny said. My parents were terraformers. They spent 30 years trying to make a dead rock into a home. Do you know what that's like? Waking up every day to do the same job, knowing you might not live to see it finished. Eat dough. I watched my mother talk to machines the same way I'm talking to you. She'd spend hours with a broken atmosphere processor, just running her hands over the parts, listening to the sounds it made. My father said she was wasting time, but she always got them working again. What was her method? Patience. She said every machine has a story. You just have to be quiet long enough to hear it. The sun finished setting. The swamp came alive with the sounds of hunting creatures. Danny should have gone back to camp. He didn't. What is the Heartstone? He asked. I cannot tell you. Because it's a secret, because I do not fully understand it myself. Kesseth's voice carried something that might have been shame. I was created to protect it. I was not told what it truly is. That seems unfair. I am a guardian. I do not require fairness. I require purpose. Danny stood up and stretched his legs. Same time tomorrow. You will return again, unless you don't want me to. Kesseth went quiet. The starlight pulsed slowly in the ancient chest. Finally, the guardian spoke. I will be here. Danny walked down the steps with a smile on his face. Behind him, Kesseth remained at the entrance, but something had changed. For the first time in 12,000 years, the guardian found itself looking forward to tomorrow. At the base of the steps, Torkel was waiting. We've repaired the ship's weapons, the Vren said quietly. Tomorrow night, we attack. While you have it distracted, Danny's smile disappeared. I won't help you. You don't have to help. Just keep doing what you're doing. Torkel's eyes were cold. Keep the monster looking the wrong direction. Danny looked back up at the temple, where Kesseth stood watching the stars. That's not a monster, he said. That's the loneliest person I've ever met. He walked past Torkel without another word. Tomorrow, everything would change. Danny climbed the steps with a flower in his hands. He had found it growing in a crack between two stones, somehow surviving in the acidic environment. Small purple petals, stubborn roots, a tiny piece of beauty in an ugly place. Kesseth watched him approach, but said nothing. Danny walked past his usual sitting spot and continued up the steps until he stood just 10 feet from the guardian. He knelt down and carefully planted the flower in a small patch of soil that had gathered in a depression in the stone. What are you doing? Kesseth asked. Giving you a gift. A plant serves no tactical purpose. Gifts usually don't. Danny patted the soil around the roots and stood up. It's just something nice to look at. Something alive to keep you company. Kesseth stared at the tiny flower. The guardian's massive form could crush it with a single step. Instead, the ancient being moved slightly to the side, giving the plant more room. I do not understand, Kesseth said. You don't have to understand. That's the whole point. Danny sat down in his usual spot. The morning sun warmed his face. In the camp below, he could see Torkel working on the ship's weapons. Time was running out. Tell me about your world, Kesseth said. Earth? What do you want to know? Everything. Danny laughed. That would take a while. Earth is complicated. He thought for a moment. There's a story about a dog named Hachiko. He belonged to a professor in a country called Japan. Every day, the dog would wait at a train station for his owner to come home from work. Efficient. The dog knew the pattern. The professor died. Suddenly, one day, he went to work and never came back. Danny paused. The dog kept waiting. Every day. For 9 years. Until the dog died too. Kesseth went very still. The dog gained nothing from this behavior. The owner was dead. I know. Then why did it continue? Because that's what love looks like sometimes. Showing up even when there's no reward. Even when it hurts. Danny looked at Kesseth. Humans do it too. We wait for people who aren't coming back. We keep promises to people who can't hear us anymore. This provides no evolutionary advantage. No, it provides no advantage at all. That's what makes it meaningful. Kesseth processed this information. The Guardian had studied countless species over the millennia. The Vren valued strength and conquest. The Meldari valued knowledge and mental superiority. The Chorus valued unity and absorption. Every species sought advantage. Humans sought connection. Tell me another story, Kesseth said. Danny told the Guardian about firefighters who ran into burning buildings to save strangers. About soldiers who threw themselves on grenades to protect their friends. About parents who worked 3 jobs so their children could have better lives. These humans die for others, Kesseth said. Others who are not family, not pack, not hive. Sometimes the people they save become family. Sometimes they never meet at all. Danny shrugged. Sometimes you help because you can. That's enough. It is not logical. No, but it's human. The day passed slowly. Danny kept talking. Kesseth kept listening. Below, Torkel finished his work and began gathering the other survivors. Isith climbed the steps alone. The Meldari's pale skin glowed softly as she approached. Kesseth tensed, but Danny held up a hand. She's okay. She's not here to fight. Isith stopped 10 feet away. The Vren is going to attack tonight. He's convinced the chorus drones to help him. I know. I wanted to warn you. She glanced at Kesseth nervously. Both of you. What? Danny asked. Because what you're doing here matters. I'm a psychic. I can feel emotions, even when people try to hide them. The Guardian's loneliness is so old and so deep, it's like standing next to an ocean. Isith's voice cracked. And you're the first person in 12,000 years who tried to fill it. Kesseth's starlight flickered. You speak truth, Meldari. I do. Will you kill me for it? No. The Guardian's voice was softer than before. You came with honesty. That is rare. Isith nodded and turned to leave. At the top of the steps, she paused. The human is good. Don't let the Vren take that away. She walked back down to the camp. Danny and Kesseth watched her go. You have made an ally, Kesseth observed. Maybe. Or maybe she just doesn't want to see anyone else get hurt. There's a difference. Danny smiled sadly. Sometimes. The sun began to set. Danny stood up and looked at the little purple flower planted beside the Guardian. It had already begun to straighten, reaching for the fading light. I have to go back to camp. Try to talk some sense into Torkel. He will not listen. Probably not. But I have to try. What? Because that's what humans do. Danny started down the steps, then stopped and looked back. Kesseth, whatever happens tonight, I want you to know something. What? You're not alone anymore. Even if Torkel wins. Even if everything goes wrong. You were seen. You were heard. Someone cared enough to sit with you and plant a stupid flower and tell you stories about dogs. That matters. Okay. The Guardian said nothing for a long moment. Okay. Danny walked down into the gathering darkness. Behind him, Kesseth looked at the tiny purple flower and felt something stir in the ancient chest. Something that had been dormant for 12,000 years. Hope. The storm came without warning. One moment the sky was clear. The next, black clouds rolled across the horizon like an angry ocean. Lightning struck the swamp in sheets of purple fire. The rain that followed burned everything it touched. Danny had seen acid rain before. This was worse. Much worse. The camp's shelters began to dissolve within minutes. The chorus drones screamed in their unified voice as the rain ate through their protective gear. Isith threw up a psychic barrier, but her strength was fading fast. Even Torkel, with his thick Vren scales, cursed in pain as the acid found gaps in his natural armor. The temple. Danny shouted. We have to reach the temple. They ran. Half blinded by the storm, boots slipping on melting stone, they climbed the steps toward the only shelter on the planet that might save them. Kesseth stood at the entrance, watching them come. Danny reached the top first. Please, he gasped. They'll die. They try to destroy me. I know, but they'll die. Kesseth looked past Danny at the desperate survivors struggling up the steps. Torkel, the one who had fired weapons and made plans and sworn to tear down the Guardian's ancient form. Isith, the chorus drones. Even now, Torkel clutched a weapon in his scaled hands. The Guardian had killed for less. Please, Danny said again. The starlight in Kesseth's chest flickered. Then it flared bright that a dome of golden light spread outward from the temple entrance. It covered the steps. It covered the survivors. The acid rain struck the barrier and hissed into steam, but nothing passed through. The survivors collapsed inside the protective field, gasping and shaking. The storm raged around them, but they were safe. Danny looked up at Kesseth. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. The storm will last for hours. I must maintain this barrier throughout. The Guardian's voice sounded strained. It has been centuries since I extended my protection this far. Are you okay? I will endure. I always endure. The survivors huddled together as the storm screamed overhead. Even Torkel said nothing, too shocked by the Guardian's mercy to remember his hatred. Danny sat close to Kesseth's massive form. Can I ask you something? You always ask questions. That is your nature. Do you know what human parents do when their children are scared of storms? Kesseth considered. I do not. They stay awake, all night. Even if they're exhausted, even if they have work the next day, they sit with their children and tell them stories until the thunder stops. That seems inefficient. The children will learn to fear storms permanently. Maybe, or maybe they learn that someone will always protect them. That fear doesn't mean you're alone. Keseth went quiet for a long time. The golden barrier shimmered as another wave of acid rain crashed against it. The humans who created machines, Keseth said slowly. They did this. They protected things weaker than themselves. All the time. Teachers who spent their own money on students who couldn't afford supplies. Doctors who worked until they collapsed trying to save strangers. Neighbors who fed each other during hard times. Danny smiled. We're not always good at it. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we're selfish or scared or stupid. But we keep trying. Why? Because someone has to. And because we remember what it felt like to need help and have no one come. Isith crawled closer, her pale skin still smoking from acid burns. The human speaks truth. I have touched many minds. Human minds burn brighter than most. They are full of contradictions, violence and tenderness, greed and sacrifice. They are chaos wrapped in skin. That sounds like an insult, Danny said. It is the highest compliment. Most species are predictable. Humans are endlessly surprising. Torkel made a sound that might have been a laugh. The Vren have fought humans twice. We lost both times. Not because they were stronger or faster or smarter. Because they refused to give up. We would destroy their ships, and they would fight from the wreckage. We would corner them, and they would surrender, then escape and come back with allies. They are impossible to defeat because they do not know when they are beaten. Stubbornness is a survival trait, Danny admitted. It is more than stubbornness, Keseth said. The Guardian's voice had changed. Softer now, almost wondering. You guard things. That is your nature. Not because you're programmed. Not because you have no choice. You guard because you choose to. Doesn't everyone? No. Keseth's starlight pulsed. Most species guard for advantage. For territory. For resources. But humans guard things that provide no benefit. You guard memories. Promises. Love. You guard people who cannot help you in return. Children. Elderly. Strangers. Danny thought about his parents on their frontier colony. 30 years of work they would never see finished. A world they built for grandchildren they might never have. I guess that's true, he said. We guard possibilities. Things that might be, if we can just hold on long enough. The storm began to weaken. The acid rain slowed to a drizzle. Dawn light crept through the fading clouds. Keseth lowered the barrier and sagged against the temple entrance. The effort had cost the Guardian greatly. Cracks had spread across the obsidian form. The starlight flickered weakly. You're hurt, Danny said. I will heal. In time. Torkel stood up, his weapon still in his hands. He looked at the damaged Guardian, then at Danny, then at the weapon. He dropped it on the stones. The Vren pay their debts, he said quietly. You save our lives, Guardian. My plans against you are finished. Keseth regarded the Vren for a long moment. You would have killed me. Yes. I was desperate. My people are dying. Torkel's voice cracked. There is a machine intelligence called the Collective. It hunts us across the galaxy. I hoped whatever you guard might be a weapon to use against it. The Heartstone is not a weapon. I understand that now. Danny helped Keseth straighten up. His human hands looked tiny against the Guardian's massive form. But the gesture mattered more than the physical support. What is the Heartstone? Danny asked. Really? Keseth was silent for a long moment. I do not know, but I think it is time we found out. Keseth led them into the temple for the first time in 12,000 years. The walls were carved with images that told story. A civilization that had spread across galaxies. Worlds blooming with life. Creatures of every shape and size living in harmony. And then darkness. Var. Extinction. The gardeners, Keseth said. That is what they called themselves. They did not conquer worlds. They grew them. The survivors walked through halls of black glass that glowed with inner light. Danny traced his fingers along the carvings, feeling the weight of history beneath his skin. What happened to them? Isith asked. The same thing that happens to all gardeners eventually. They grew old. They died. But their work continues. Keseth stopped before a massive door. The Heartstone lies beyond. Will you let us see it? Danny asked. I will let you see it. I have hidden it for so long, I had forgotten why. The door opened. The chamber beyond was small. Just a circular room with a pedestal in the center. On the pedestal sat a crystal no larger than a human fist. It glowed with soft golden light that shifted through colors like a sunset. That's it. Torkel sounded disappointed. That tiny thing. Touch it, Keseth said. Torkel reached out, then hesitated. He looked at Danny. Danny stepped forward and placed his hand on the crystal. The world disappeared as he stood in darkness. Then stars bloomed around him, billions of them, and each star carried worlds, and each world carried life. He saw creatures he could not name, plants that sang, oceans that thought, mountains that dreamed, and he understood. The Heartstone was not a weapon. It was a seed. Inside that tiny crystal lived the genetic patterns of 10,000 species, creatures that had gone extinct across the galaxy. Entire ecosystems reduced to code, waiting to be reborn. The gardeners had seen the end coming. Wars, plagues, disasters. They could not stop the dying, but they could preserve what was lost, holding it safe until someone worthy came to plant the seeds again. Danny opened his eyes. He was back in the chamber, tears running down his face. It's beautiful, he whispered. You understand now, Keseth said. They saved everything. All those species, all those worlds. They're not gone. They're just sleeping. Torkel grabbed Danny's arm. What did you see? What is it? Before Danny could answer, the temple shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. A sound like thunder rolled through the halls. Something is coming, Isith said. Her pale skin had gone even paler. Something terrible. They ran back to the entrance. In the sky above the swamp, a ship was descending. Not a trading vessel or exploration craft. A warship. Its hull was covered with angular metal plates that seemed to absorb light. The collective, Torkel breathed. They found us. They were not following you, Keseth said. They have been seeking the Heartstone for centuries. The crash must have activated dormant sensors. The warship began firing. Beams of blue energy struck the temple, shaking the ancient structure to its foundation. Can you fight them? Danny asked. Not in my current state. The storm weakened me. If they breach the temple, they will take the Heartstone. What would they do with it? Corrupt it. The collective absorbs and controls. They would twist the seeds, use them to create armies of enslaved creatures. 10,000 species turned into weapons. Danny looked at the tiny crystal in the chamber. All those lives, all that possibility, waiting for someone to give them a chance. There has to be another way, he said. There is. Keseth's voice was heavy. The Heartstone was designed to be planted. If someone merges with it, they can carry the seeds across the galaxy. But the process is fatal. The gardeners sacrifice themselves to scatter the first seeds. I'll do it, Danny said immediately. No, Torkel stepped forward. My people are already dying. Let my death mean something. The Heartstone requires a specific kind of host, Keseth said. Someone who guards without expecting reward. Someone who protects without counting cost. It was designed for the gardeners, but they are gone. Then who? Keseth looked at Danny. You. The Heartstone responds to humans. Your capacity for selfless protection matches the gardeners exactly. The temple shook again. Part of the ceiling collapsed. Danny thought about his parents on their frontier world, about all the humans throughout history who had given everything for strangers, about the dog who waited 9 years for an owner who never came. If I do this, what happens to everyone else? The temple falls. The collective takes nothing. That's not good enough. Danny's jaw tightened. There has to be a way to save them too. Keseth's starlight flickered. There is no way. Then make one. I cannot. I am a guardian. I was created to protect the Heartstone, not to think beyond my purpose. Danny stepped closer to the ancient being. Then choose something else. You told me that humans guard because we choose to. You could choose to. You're not just a program anymore. You're a person. A lonely person who finally found friends. The warship's bombardment intensified. Choose, Keseth. What do you want to protect? The Guardian stood motionless for a long moment. The starlight in its chest flickered and pulsed. 12,000 years of duty weighed against 1 week of kindness. I want to protect you, Keseth finally said. All of you, then find a way. Keseth closed its ancient eyes. Deep within the temple, something began to hum. The gardeners built me to merge with the temple in times of great need. I can become a vessel for the Heartstone, a living ship to carry the seeds. Will you survive? I do not know. I have never tried. Another explosion. More of the temple crumbled. Do it, Danny said. We trust you. Keseth opened its eyes. For the first time, the starlight within burned steady and strong. Then we fly. Keseth's transformation began with a sound like breaking glass. The walls of the temple cracked and shifted. Black glass flowed like water, rising around the survivors and forming a protective shell. Danny grabbed Isith's arm as the floor tilted beneath them. Torkel braced himself against a pillar that was melting into something new. The chorus drones spoke in their unified voice. The structure is changing at the molecular level. The Guardian is absorbing the temple into itself. Outside, the collective warship continued its assault. Energy beams tore through the mountain, exposing the transforming temple within. But the black glass moved faster than the weapons could destroy it, that Keseth's massive form dissolved into the walls. The starlight that had burned in its chest spread throughout the entire structure, turning dead stone into living ship. Windows formed where there had been solid rock. Engines ignited from ancient power sources buried deep in the mountain. Danny found himself standing in what looked like a control room. The walls glowed with soft golden light. In the center, where the Heartstone's pedestal had been, a pillar of crystal rose from the floor. Within it, he could see Keseth's face, eyes closed, starlight pulsing through veins of glass. Keseth, I am here. The voice came from everywhere. I'm a ship now. The temple, the Guardian, all of it. Are you okay? A pause. I am more than okay. I am alive. Truly alive. For the first time in 12,000 years, I feel something beyond duty. The ship shuddered as it tore free from mountain. Rock and debris fell away as Keseth rose into the sky. The collective warship adjusted its position, firing at the ascending vessel. Hold on, Keseth said. The ship accelerated. Danny slammed into a wall and felt hands grab him. Torkel, the Vren warriors steadied him as they climbed through the atmosphere, leaving the burning planet behind. They're following us, Isith reported. Her psychic senses could feel the cold machine intelligence of the collective, hungry and relentless. I know. Keseth turned to face the warship. In the blackness of space, the living ship of glass and starlight looked like a creature from ancient legend. Wings of crystal spread from its sides. Eyes of golden fire burned at its front. The Heartstone's energy can be channeled into a weapon, Keseth said. But only once. It will empty the reserves I need to plant the seeds. Don't, Danny said. There has to be another way. There is not. The collective will never stop hunting us. They will track us across the galaxy. Every world we try to restore, they will corrupt. Every species we bring back, they will enslave. The warship closed in, its weapons charged for a final strike. Torkel said, let me fly this ship into them. A collision might disable their vessel. That would kill you. My people are already dying. Let this death buy them time. No, Keseth's voice was firm. I spent 12,000 years guarding a treasure I did not understand. Now I understand. The Heartstone is not just seeds and patterns. It is hope. It is the promise that life continues, even when everything seems lost. Danny pressed his hand against the crystal pillar. What are you going to do? What humans do. Guard something precious, even when it costs everything. The starlight within Keseth blazed bright. Energy gathered at the front of the ship, swirling into a sphere of golden fire that grew larger with every second. The Heartstone's power, millions of years old, focused into a single devastating point. The collective warship fired. Keseth fired back. The golden sphere tore through space and struck the warship at its center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then light erupted from every seam in the enemy vessel's hull. The cold machine intelligence screamed across psychic wavelengths as its systems overloaded. The warship cracked, split, and exploded into a million pieces of burning metal. Silence fell. Danny stared at the debris field. Is it over? The collective will send others eventually. But not for many years. We have time. Time for what? The ship turned away from the destruction. Stars stretched before them, endless and beautiful. Time to plant gardens. Years passed. Danny grew older. Gray appeared in his hair. Lines formed around his eyes. But he never stopped working. Keseth carried them across the galaxy, from dead worlds to dying ones, from barren moons to poisoned planets. And everywhere they went, they planted seeds. Not all of them took. Some worlds were too damaged. Some ecosystems too destroyed. But many flourished. Forests grew where there had been ash. Oceans bloomed with creatures that had been extinct for millions of years. Mountains echoed with songs that had been silent since before any current species achieved sentience. Other humans joined them. Danny recruited them from colonies and stations across the frontier. People who wanted to help. People who understood that some things were worth more than profit or power. The Vryn sent warriors to protect the Garden Worlds. Torkel led them. His rage transformed into purpose. The Meldari sent healers to help the restored species adapt. Isith coordinated their efforts, her psychic gifts helping creatures communicate across ancient divides. Even the Chorus sent representatives, though their hive minds struggled to understand the concept of growing things for their own sake rather than for absorption. One morning, Danny stood on a world that had been dead rock when they first arrived. Now grass waved in gentle winds. Trees reached toward a sun that once shone on nothing but stone. In the distance, creatures grazed on hillsides that had never known life before, that Keseth's voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere. You are thinking. I'm remembering. Danny smiled. The first day I met you, you asked why I kept coming back. I remember. You never gave me a proper answer. I didn't know the answer then. Danny watched a bird take flight. A species that had been extinct for 100 million years, now soaring through clean air on a new world. I think I was looking for something worth guarding, something bigger than myself. Did you find it? I found you. I found this. He gestured at the living world around them. I found a reason to keep showing up, even when it was hard. Keseth was quiet for a moment. The guardian who rejected all species now travels with a crew of humans who chose kindness. Is that a complaint? It is an observation, and perhaps a thank you. Danny laughed. For what? For planting a flower beside a lonely creature who had forgotten what beauty looked like. For telling stories to something that had not heard a kind voice in 12,000 years. For seeing a monster and finding a friend. The sun rose higher. The world woke up. You're welcome, Danny said. Same time tomorrow. I will be here. They always were.